Tobi Adebola was used to getting what he wanted. Born into one of the wealthiest families in Lagos, he had power, influence, and money at his fingertips. He ran his father's company with the precision of a CEO, and every business deal was a conquest. His rules for women, though, were different. He never saw the same woman twice, and he made sure that none of them ever got too attached. Love, commitment, those things weren't part of his vocabulary. But things changed after his father passed away. At the reading of his father's will, Toby was hit with a condition that felt more like a slap in the face than an inheritance. His mother, Mama Adebola, was named the executor of the estate, and she had one demand. "Toby, you need to get married," she said, her voice stern and final. "You've been running the company well, but the Adebola family needs more than a successful business. We need stability. You need to prove you're ready to lead this family." Toby's jaw clenched. He was the CEO, for crying out loud. He didn't need anyone, especially not a wife, telling him how to live. He argued with his mother, but her decision stood firm. No wife, no inheritance. Later that night, Toby met up with his best friend Kunle at their usual spot, a luxury bar on Victoria Island. He poured out his frustration. "Marriage? Can you believe that? I'm supposed to be running the company, and now my mother's pushing this outdated nonsense on me," Toby fumed. Kunle, ever the smooth talker, smirked. "Why not just find someone to marry for a year? A contract wife. She doesn't have to mean anything to you. Just someone who'll get the job done, and after that you can go back to living how you want." Toby paused. The idea wasn't terrible. He didn't have time for a real relationship, but a contract wife? That could work, but she had to be someone who wouldn't get too attached. Someone who was desperate enough to agree. "Find me someone who's broke," Toby said with a grin. "Someone who'll leave once the contract ends." Across town, Ada, a hard-working server at a small restaurant, was having a rough time. Her boyfriend had just walked out on her, leaving her to pay all the bills. Rent, electricity, water, it all fell on her shoulders. The stress of it all felt suffocating. That night, after a long shift, Ada came home to a dark apartment. The electricity had been cut off. She stared at the bill she couldn't pay, feeling the weight of her situation. It seemed like things were falling apart faster than she could fix them. The next day, at work, while carrying a tray full of plates, Ada accidentally bumped into a man in a sharp suit. Plates crashed to the ground and she froze in embarrassment. "Sorry. I'm so sorry," she stammered. The man, unbothered, bent down to help her. "It's all right, no harm done," he said with a smooth smile. As he handed her his card, he added, "Call me. I have an offer for you." Ada didn't think much of it until later that night. Curious, she called the number on the card and they arranged to meet. Over coffee the next day, Toby wasted no time. "I need a wife. It's just for a year. It's a contract. At the end, you'll get paid and we part ways." Ada blinked, stunned. "You're offering me a fake marriage?" "Yes," Toby said, his tone casual. "You'll have to live with me, act the part, and come to events. But there's no intimacy involved, strictly business." Ada shook her head, her pride stinging. "I'm not interested," she said firmly. Toby shrugged. "My number's on the card. Call me if you change your mind." Toby wasn't one to give up easily. He believed Ada was perfect for the role, so he decided to make things difficult. He used his connections to have her water cut off due to non-payment. Now Ada was in deeper trouble. No electricity, no water. The pressure mounted, and as she sat in her dimly lit apartment that evening, she stared at Toby's card once more. With a sigh of resignation, she picked up the phone and called him. "All right," she said, her voice low. "I'll do it." When Ada moved into Toby's luxurious penthouse, the reality of her decision hit her hard. The contrast between her small apartment and his grand lifestyle was stark. But what surprised her most was Toby himself. Despite his arrogance, there was something about him that intrigued her. But Toby had his own struggles. He didn't expect to find himself drawn to Ada, yet he was. Her resilience and spirit were unlike anything he had experienced in the shallow world of Lagos's high society. Their chemistry was undeniable. Every interaction between them was filled with tension, playful banter, stolen glances, and an unspoken attraction that simmered beneath the surface. But the contract was clear: no intimacy. Toby's rule for the year was no breaking the boundaries. But as the days turned into weeks, the line between pretense and reality began to blur. One evening, after a glamorous event, they found themselves alone on the penthouse balcony. Ada leaned against the railing, the city lights of Lagos twinkling below. Toby stood beside her, the silence between them thick with everything unsaid. "You don't really care about this contract, do you?" Ada asked quietly, her eyes never leaving the skyline. Toby smirked, his eyes tracing the curve of her face. "I care about getting what I need." "And what happens when you get it?" Ada turned to face him, her heart pounding in her chest. Toby stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "We go our separate ways. Isn't that what you agreed to?" But as their eyes met, neither of them believed the words coming out of his mouth. The tension between them was undeniable, and the contract's rules suddenly felt impossible to follow. Join me in part 2 as we find out if they can keep their feelings in check or if their hearts will betray the contract. Like, share, and subscribe for more thrilling African romance stories. Stay tuned for part 2 of this intriguing tale.